welcome to this. This is a crazy episode where I talk about the reincarnation of my dog. And so it's quite a story, but it's the foundation to the last episode, which is your spirit honors your religious beliefs. And where that came from is the reincarnation of my dog. So, and this is, I have my book with me with my little notes, and this is our branding. Our branding is all about dogs, and we have our little underdog that then becomes our superhero in our logo, and we use dogs in everything. And the reason, and there's a deeper meaning to the dogs, and that's what I'm going to tell you in the story, today's story. But it's when we do our marketing through our dogs. So if we did marketing with people and we told, people can be great, like influencers. They can, that people are good for marketing. Like, you can see a picture and go, oh, I want to be like that. I want to feel like that. But we have a tendency when we look at people to judge, and we judge everything. And the way social media has changed our brains to work is that we judge faster and faster and faster. We judge by the way they look, the way they show up. We judge everything about people. But in the space is all about non-judgment. You don't judge ideas. It's about quantity, not quality. You're not going to, you're trying to create ideas. You're trying to be in this space of spontaneous creativity, flow of ideas. You want to start operating in the flow. You want to question all your judgments. You want to be like, that's curious. It made me angry. What is behind that? So the whole idea is that you are in this non-judgment space, and that you're able to receive the message. You're in this non-judgment space. You're able to hear the message, receive the message, connect with the creativity that was behind the advertisement, the creativity of what we're doing, and so you can see it and I'll get a little bit close to the camera. You can see the spirit of the animal. And if you had a person doing this, you would immediately say, oh, that's goofy, that's silly, that's just ridiculous. I'm not going to, you would have all these judgments around it, and you would immediately dismiss it, and it wouldn't create it. But when you see an animal doing this, that you can connect with it on that level. And, so the reason we use dogs, and the reason we just went through this whole exercise of like why we use dogs, was this spiritual component to animals. And so, we started talking about tuning forks. We started talking about, how our religion is one of our tuning forks. Our religious practices are our tuning forks. That grounded, that, walking in nature. It might be taking a run. It might be swimming. It might be connected to water. It might be all these different things that are your tuning forks. Your religious practices, your prayer, your meditation, all of those things. That idea of giving it up to God is the whole idea is to get out of your head and start connecting with this space of creativity. And so animals allow us to do that. That's why cat videos are so cool, because people, animals doing these creative things help us see it in a way that we're not judgmental when a human does it. So that's why our marketing is built around dogs. But there's also a deeper spiritual component to me, which is the reincarnation of my dog. So let's start with that story. So again, this is hard for people that have fundamental religion when I start talking about mediums, but then I've been to 5 times in my life, and it's had the biggest alteration. So like my, daughter that felt she wasn't smart told, medium said, you got to fix this. So that's the first time I went to a medium, and she's like, you got to fix this. And I'm like, okay. So I did. And, I helped her correct her course of not being smart. And now, she's an emergency medical doctor. And so, so there's a value there. So the second time I went to a medium, I went with my friend, Amy, and the medium in this case, she doesn't let us go in together. Where now we have a different medium and she lets us go in together. It's a really cool experience. Anyway, so I'm in the waiting room and there's this book that I pick up. And the book is Pets Tell the Truth by Agnes Julia Thomas, PhD. And I start reading the back of it, and it's how to talk to animals, how to connect with and how to talk to animals. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need this. So what had happened was we had a Wheaten Terrier, and Wheaten Terriers typically live 8 to 10 years and for their breed. And he was having some medical issues, and he was 9, and we're like, okay, this is it. And I wanted to get new carpet in my house. So what we decided was we were going to reload with our replacement dogs now, because we know he's on his last legs. We know it's end of life for him. And I'm going to reload with this new dogs, and that way I can get my new carpet, get them trained, and then get my new carpet. I don't care if they pee on the old carpet, but I can get my new carpet. So anyway, we got little dogs. So, Wheaten Terriers are like medium-sized dogs, especially the American ones. I think one or the other. There's American Wheaten Terriers and English Wheaten Terriers. Anyway, the one's shorter and one's taller. This is a taller in stature dog, and he wasn't doing well. Anyway, so the little dogs just peed everywhere, and they wouldn't stop peeing everywhere, and we couldn't housebreak them. They just were ridiculous to housebreak. And I picked this book up, and it's like how to talk to animals, and I'm like, I got to give it a shot. I've got to figure out how to talk to animals, so I can tell them, don't pee in the house, you go outside. Anyway, so I started reading this book, and it was amazing, truly amazing. Something I'd never heard before. I just was it just totally changed my world, because it's oh my God, no one ever talks about talking to animals. No one ever talks about Dr. Dolittle being, a real thing, And so this woman, she's actually, and that's where the credibility, instead of dismissing it, oh, that's like voodoo, or, oh yeah, that's just crazy. So anyway, she's a medical doctor at the Cleveland Clinic, and we're here in Akron. So Cleveland Clinic's and if you're a medical doctor, and she's talking about how it works, and basically that they don't have language like we have language. They don't use that, but you can ask them questions, and then they send back pictures. So, or you can talk to them, just their responses are all pictures. So what she does is, she talks to them, and she deals with a lot of end-of-life dogs, where you're trying to make the decision of, should you put the dog to sleep? Is the dog really suffering? Is it their time? It's a really tough decision for a dog owner. You can see they're suffering. You can see they're in pain, but are they ready to go? Do they want this option, of, putting them out of their misery? And so she works with a lot of people, talking to their animals, and ask them, is it time to go? So, the whole mechanism is that she asks them a question, and then they send back pictures. And so, let's say, are you, and she gets back answers. They will send a picture of the organs or the body that is hurting, and she will, and sorry, I mean to tap on that. So they would send back pictures of what they're experiencing, where the pain is, where it is. And because she's a medical doctor, she can diagnose what the issue is. So it's really interesting. And she does it for both emotional and she does it for, physical. She diagnoses dogs, like what's really going on. And she can do it with any type of animal. I mean, it's not just dogs, but she can't do it with, and this is where my whole theory of religious beliefs comes from. She cannot talk to animals if the owner is of like a religion where this is not a cool. Okay. So the animal honors your religious beliefs. And for me, there's so many takeaways from this, honest to God. There's so many takeaways. So that's where the whole theory started, that there's nothing wrong with your religious beliefs, that your religious beliefs are absolutely fabulous, and that your spirit honors your religious beliefs too. And that in these programs, in everything I'm talking about, that is the one sacred thing, is that this is not about changing your religious beliefs, that your spirit, there's a reason you have the belief systems that you have. And that if your animals honor it too, then it is my responsibility to honor it too, and not say anything that interferes with that or changes your belief system or anything. So this process of speaking to animals will not work for you if so her first thing is to ask permission to the animal, and the animal will tell her right away, no, I can't talk to you because my owner, this is not within their belief system. And so this is where my whole theory comes from, of when you die, that your spirit honors this too, that this is all part of, so if you believe you go to heaven, you go to heaven. If you believe that that's it, that's the end, that's the end. If you believe that you're going to live 50,000 lives, you're going to come back for the next one. And that there is no wrong answer here. And that we should be more tolerant of other people's belief systems instead of saying that's wrong or judgmental. Because the whole idea is not to judge, it's to be in a space of love and kindness and support. So anyway, back to the book. So that's where that whole theory comes from. And I really, truly believe it. I absolutely believe that what we're talking about here is really truth about animals. And, the other takeaway was that the dog's purpose is for people to experience love. So, and you can, when you actually focus on it, when that, you're having a bad day and that animal crawls up next to you and they feel it when you're not feeling well, when you're not in a great headspace, that animal will come up next to you, and just their presence, the wagging of the tail, the interaction, the pet me, the asking for that, is they're drawing attention away from your mental suffering and putting you in a space of love and healing. And that's animals. And she says quite clearly, that's the purpose of animals, is to help us experience more love. That's it. Whole purpose of dogs, help us to experience more love. And I love that. I think that's so profound and so amazing and so wonderful. So anyway, back to my reincarnation story. So our last name is Stout, and our first, married couple dog was Guinness. So it's Guinness Stout. And he was 9 years old, and he was really suffering. And that morning, he had tried to walk downstairs, and his legs gave out, and he just kind of fell downstairs. And it was really heart-wrenching. And I'm like, look, I tell my husband this, I read this book. There's this woman, and I explained her, and she can talk to him and ask him if it's time, is it time to put you to sleep? Anyway, and so, my husband's like, I don't know, so I'm like, let me just do this. Okay. I'm like, I read this whole book, everything in it just made so much sense, and the other thing too is I tested it and practiced it. So one of my coolest party tricks when we're al fresco outside, if we have like a bee or a wasp or a fly that's just really bothering our dinner party outside, that I do this practice where you kind of go inside and you just talk to them, and I ask them politely, very politely and nicely, to go away, and they're bothering us, please go away. and they disappear. You know, that pesky fly and everything. And like, oh, you know, so I tell all the guests, don't worry, I'll ask them to leave. And they do. And it just like, you know, part of it's like, yeah, I can do this. And I'm like, you too can do this. Everybody can do this. But anyway, so it's and I always call it the weird world I live in, you know? So anyway, it's my coolest party trick. But back to the story. So, and I have to put these little, because this story is going to make you cry. We cried our eyes out when this. So anyway, so we call her and, you know, we set up an appointment with her. She calls back and she charges $50 to do this. And, you know, we've already reloaded with 2 dogs, because we got 1 dog and then the puppy was too much work because we were working from home. And so then we got another one. So they had someone to play with. So we had 3 dogs at the time. We had 3 dogs and that was way too many dogs, especially the little ones peeing everywhere. So, so we called her up and, you know, and I explained the situation. I said I read her book and she was teaching courses everywhere. Now, before I got on this podcast, I meant to look her up and just see if she's still alive because she was, you know, senior when she wrote this. So, you know, I explained the situation. I explained, and, you know, so she asked a few questions like, tell us, you know, his name and his breed and, you know, and then she connected with him and she said, you know, he had lymphoma throughout his stomach and that, you know, so she started talking to him back and forth and she said, you know, your mom and dad can take you and you can have, you know, they can give you this shot. It's 2 shots and one will relax you. And then the other one will, you know, help you to, you know, leave this body and be out of this pain. And, you know, is it time? Would you like that? Is that something that you would want? And he said, yes, that's something I would want. And then the next part of it that I wasn't prepared for, she asked, do you want to come back? And I'm like, oh my God, I wasn't ready for that question. We just reloaded with 2 dogs. Do you want to come back? You know, you have the opportunity. She said, you know, you're going to be around your mom and dad for about, you know, a week. And then you're going to go pass on to the other side and you're going to be there for, you know, basically 3 months. Your soul has to be, you know, and you're going to be around mom and dad. You're going to see them, but your soul has to like regenerate a little bit. And then you have the chance to come back in another dog's body. And what would you like to be? And he's like, well, I want to be the same thing. I want to be a Wheaton again. And she's like, okay, well, you can be a Wheaton again and you'll come back. And what will happen is we will check in with you and we will follow your soul and we'll find out where you are and we'll come get you. And I'm like, I wasn't prepared for 3 dogs. And I'm like, another puppy? And I'm like, oh my God. But you know, you're so emotional at the time. You're so emotional. You're like, you're just like, yes, of course we want our dog back. You know, of course we do. And so anyway, you know, we took him to the vet and, the vet said, oh my gosh, this is, you know, we held him and they did the 2 shots. And the vet said, this is one of the most peaceful transitions we've ever experienced. Like usually the dog is nervous, hesitant, he can feel what's going on and everything. But this dog was so peaceful. Anyway, we were just absolute basket cases. I mean, to call the vet, like I hung up on the vet, like my husband just couldn't do it. And I hung up on the vet like 4 times. Like I couldn't get the words out. I'm like, we've got to. And I was crying and I couldn't do it. And then we were crying the whole time. And then our vet was on vacation. So we had to go to this other vet. And I'm crying now. I'm sorry. And then we just went into Target parking lot, and we just bawled our eyes out afterwards. Absolutely bawled our eyes out, But there's nothing like helping the transition of a pet, knowing that they can come back. A note from our sponsor. Yes, it's me again. Hire me for your leadership training to bring a creative culture into your business, or join me at a leadership workshop at 𝗘𝗽𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗲 this fall. If you need a keynote speaker or you need an innovative workshop for your next conference, go to creativityunleashed.co and hire me. So anyway, I think you wait a couple weeks. It's been like 13 years ago this was. So you wait a couple weeks and then you connect with her, and she connects with the dog on the other side. And just to make sure everything's good and everything's okay. And then she asks him what happened. So, she's connecting with his soul on the other side. And she said, well, tell us about your experience. What happened? And he said, this angel came down, and she was this beautiful blonde angel, and he licked her neck, and she took him to the other side. Well, we built our house right behind our best friend's house, and their mother lived with them till she passed. And she didn't do anything except help raise their kids and, put our kids on and off the bus and things like that. And when we had him as a puppy, she would come out when we had real jobs. We had real jobs before when we had him as a puppy, and she would come over every day and let him out twice a day, the cage. And whenever she let him out, he would always lick her neck, and she had passed, a few years earlier. And, this was Arlene, and the angel of Arlene came down and took him to the other side. And and then where is he now? Well, he is in this beautiful house with this man. And this man has this lake in front of his house, and he has all these pets that have passed that he's taking care of. And she described the man, and it was my husband's father. My husband's father passed tragically at 56 years old. And but he always was about money. They always had nice things. He always, and he was the keeper of all the animals, and he was protecting the souls of taking care of all the animals that had passed. Isn't that funny? So, she's describing everything, and it's definitely my husband's father. Anyway, so 3 months went by. She checked in him. He was doing great. He was having a great time. He was free of this body and all this pain. And 3 months went by, and we were supposed to call back and we would start to track his soul. And we called back in 3 months, and he had not found a body yet. And, we're like, pick a good body. Please pick a good body. Okay, so, and he didn't pick a body yet. So a month later, we called back, and she checked in, and she said, I think he's going to pick a body in this place with this litter. And then we confirmed it. And so we, contacted the owner, the breeder, and we're like, hey, explain this story, this crazy story. we're tracking down the soul of our past dog. And, he's like, okay, and I said, you've just had this litter born, and that, we have to basically hold each one of them while we've got this person on the phone, and she's going to check in with each animal and tell us which one is our dog, So we did that. We went down and we visited. We had her on the phone. We held each one of them, the puppies, out of the litter. I think there was 6 puppies. And finally, this one we held, and she said, that's the one. That's him. So we, I don't know how they all looked alike, these little puppies. They were all, soft-coated Wheaten Terriers. They all looked alike. So, but the breeder said, yeah, okay, we'll keep that one aside for you. That's it. So, I don't know. I think it was 6 weeks later, we came back and we got our puppy. And when he came home, he had a lot of the mannerisms of Guinness. We made him Guinness again, Guinness Stout, but we call him Guinness 2.0. And he, laid where the other dog laid under my husband's desk. He had a lot of the mannerisms. The only thing that did not work out was he did not pick a good body. No siree. I think he was just urgent in getting back to us. It'd been, at 3 months he was looking for a body, and finally at 4 months he's like, this is the best I can do. But he's had all kinds of health issues. He's got thyroid. He's got, he has torn ACLs. He has constant skin infections from allergies, and it's a real battle to keep him healthy. But this is the deal. The breed typically lives 8 to 10 years old. And he, even with all these issues, he's got arthritis. We have him on Prozac because he's a little dog aggressive, like all these issues. And he's now going to be turning 13, and he's lived 3 years past. So did he pick a good body? I think so. Is it the same Guinness? He has this different personality. As he got older and as he started having these health issues, he just had less tolerance for the other dogs that came into the family, which like my daughter's dogs and everything. So we ended up with 3 dogs, and then my daughter just petitioned for her own dog. So we ended up with 4 dogs. And today we have the senior son. At 1, Max, he passed, and it was so sad, and I'll do that another story, but it was during COVID, but he also had tons of issues. But we have 3 dogs now. They're senior dogs. The 2 girls are deaf. They pee everywhere. It's just like the senior center for dogs because their pee is so strong now, and it's all I do is clean carpets. So, but I love them to death, and it's the world I live in. And 13-year-old Guinness 2.0, still kicking it, but we're not. When he passes, we're not going to make that phone call. So anyway, I hope it was a great story. It really changed my relationship with animals. I don't eat meat, but that's not because of that. That's my menopause story, and maybe we will talk about that in my next episode. But and I have this sacred relationship with all animals now, and it's just very cool. It's very cool to experience the connection, and they are very much part of the creative flow. They are tuning forks. So having your dogs in the office, having your cats around you, having those animals around you, they all help you be more creative. And so start to see them as your tuning forks and that part of your life that can not only bring joy, bring love, that whole experience of animals. That's what their purpose is, and that's what they're there for. And give them the gift of having them help you be more creative, more loving, more centered, more letting go. And that's the gift of the pets in your life. So thank you. And thank you for listening all 3 episodes. But I just wanted you to know that you're allowed to have your religious beliefs, and we're not in any way going to change that. Thank you.